With the latest on the corporate front, all the market trends, expert opinion, and sound business advice. It is your unique window into the business world, direct from the heart of China.
Hello and welcome to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Coming up, we will have half an hour of business news and analysis. On today's show, Chinese President Xi Jinping has urged the country's private sector to seize opportunities in the new era and advance modernization. And we will also take a look at Hainan Province, which has announced a draft proposal to boost the low-altitude economy. And now let's begin with our top story. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called on the country's private sector to seize opportunities in the new era and advance modernization. He also shared his hopes and expectations for private entrepreneurs.
Private enterprises and entrepreneurs should embrace entrepreneurship and patriotism, focus on strengthening, optimizing and expanding their businesses while abiding by the law, promote common prosperity, and be firm contributors to building socialism with Chinese characteristics and advancing Chinese modernization.
The Chinese president was speaking as he met representatives from privately owned companies recently. He urged more support for the healthy and high-quality development of the private economy. Senior executives from companies such as Huawei, Xiaomi, BYD, and Unitree Robotics presented advice on the development of the economy. So for more on this, join us on the line now are Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation, Chen Jiahe, Chief Investment Officer at Novum Archi Technologies, and also Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University. So, Jiahe, I will start with you. In what ways does this symposium demonstrate the Chinese government's long-term support strategy for the private economy, do you think?
Yeah, this is a very top-level meeting in China. I mean, President Xi met these, the leading entrepreneurs of China, and which shows China's really importance of private economy, also the China's government supporting to the private economy. In fact, if you look at the private economy in China right now, it takes up a huge amount of employment, a huge amount of innovation. The Chinese government is showing all this support to the private economy. I mean, not only through this meeting, also through a lot of measures that has been taken in the past few years, a lot of policies, even the law that aims at encouraging and promising the private economy to grow. So all these things has really shown China's determination to develop the private economy and using private economy as a major part of economic growth, especially for the innovation in technologies.
And Yan, so considering the representatives of various industries present at the symposium, how will their insights influence the future development of the private economy in different sectors?
Well, I think these entrepreneurs are really widely representing the various industries, as you just mentioned, especially some of the representatives from the tech industry, from agriculture, from robotics, and also from consumer electronics. They were all asked to provide advice on the development of the private sector as far as, policies are concerned. So I think, these advice will really represent many different industries, especially the ones that are sort of at the, technological front, that they are leading the technological innovations of the country. And they're also representing, these industries that develop some of the general purpose technologies that can be integrated and applied to some of the traditional industries. So I think it's very important for this meeting. It is not just a symbolic meeting, as some of the media would put it, as a way just to boost the confidence of the private sectors. But I think it's really a great venue for these various representatives from different industries to really kind of provide advice in the sense of, what challenges that they are facing with, what potential that they're seeing for their respective industries, and what kind of policy support they would need. So I think this is a very important and also beneficial meeting for the Chinese economy and the private enterprises in particularly.
And Dr. Zhou Mi, so what do you think are the current obstacles in the private sector, and what kind of policies does the government need to introduce to meet the development needs of these enterprises?
Well,
In my understanding that when I'm talking about the obstacles, I think it's quite more different in different sectors. As for the private sectors, I think there are also many diversified. Some of them are really good at the real estate, and some of them are good at like the semiconductors. So in my understanding, the first of all is their confidence. Can they have the more confidence that they will put more energy, like the capital and also technology or experiences in the long-term development, or they just be afraid that in the future they do not have enough opportunities to compete with other enterprises, including also the enterprises from other countries. So the first one is I think that is really important because enterprises, they do need a longer term of environment, more standing and sustainable. And the second is on the abilities of giving the resources. The resources may include the capital and also some of the loans from the banks and also the money from other companies. And the second is whether they are able to get more experiences that people and also to compete with other companies like fairly in the area like the government procurement. And third one, I think that is also obstacles from the resources about research and development. And could they be able to have a better support by the public research centers like the computation abilities or other resources? I think for those obstacles, Chinese decision makers are really taking care of that issues, and they are going to trying to provide a better infrastructure for the research and development, and also have published several policies to let the foreign people come here to China freely. And they are also reducing the negative list for the companies, especially for the private sectors to enter in the development. And that is also helpful for them to have better confidence. I think these policies are already there, but they are maybe not enough now, and maybe we should try to have some kind of change in the future according to the requirements of the enterprises.
And yeah, so representatives from Huawei, Xiaomi, BYD, etc., they put forward advice on developing the private sector. And President Xi Jinping also highlighted independent innovation as a means of boosting co-competitiveness. So what are the key drivers for innovation in the private sector, do you think?
Well, I think we can look at it from both the supply side and also demand side when it comes to the driving factors, driving forces. On the supply side, we know that the Chinese enterprises, they're highly competitive. And so the entire industrial sector, the ecosystem it's very competitive. That means that if a company does not innovate, it's likely to be outcompeted by the peers in the industries, and they could be weeded out from the market. So I think that the competition is really what drives a lot of these private enterprises to innovate in order to be able to have a sort of foothold, right, to be able to stay in the market. And then from the demand side, I think China has a very large market when it comes to consumption demand and also investment demand. So I think for enterprises, if they innovate, if they're able to bring out the best products and the best services, this is an incredible opportunity for them to make profits. So I think this has been a really effective mechanism to prompt private sectors to innovate. And on the other hand, I think there's a lot of advantages for many of these companies. They have huge potentials. Right now, they have the supportive policies from the government, and this is a very comprehensive policy support. It's not just about providing subsidies and whatnot, but it's a whole, for example, from infrastructure to helping to recruit talents. I think many of the governments are providing a lot of supportive policies and programs. They're also having a lot of potentials because they are highly competitive in their technologies, and in the EV sector, in smartphones or industrial robotics. Many of these companies have great already technological innovations, so they can really in a way leverage on what the strengths that they have now. And last but not the least, I think, again, China produces very large pool of talent, right? China produces over 4.3 million STEM students, graduates a year. So this large talent pool is able to help private sectors to innovate, not to mention the already complete and mature industry supply chain. So all of these, I think, would really drive the private sector to continue to innovate and to be able to accomplish a lot in the technological space.
And Yan, so Chinese AI startup DeepSeek has recently generated global attention in the tech community. So how do you view this China's AI development, its market and applications?
Well, I think DeepSeek is definitely one salient example of China's AI success, right? It is able to build a foundational large language model that is very competent and yet at a fraction of cost of ChatGPT or Grok or others. But it's not the only AI model that China has. As a matter of fact, China has quite a few of these large language models. They're also very competitive, right? The ones that are developed by Tencent, by ByteDance, by Alibaba, and so on and so forth. So I think it has been again, competitive environment. It has been a space where many AI developers are really thriving. Now, when it comes to applications, I think that it's even more remarkable because in the West, a lot of these AI models are very expensive, right, to develop, and therefore they are not open access tool for the general, sort of public. But in China, the AI, especially, for DeepSeek, is an open sourced technology, which means, others could utilize the model and modify and improve on it. So it then could be much more affordable and accessible for its wide applications. So we know now many of the EV companies already are using AI to drive their autonomous technologies. There are many financial companies are using it in the education sector, in also healthcare. So there are just many applications because this is a general purpose industries, right? Not to mention in manufacturing, for example. So I can see that in China, because of the model is so accessible and it's so competent, and many of the industries are so ready to adopt it, going from BYD cars to WeChat. So I think it's going to have a huge market potential for the application and monetization of the technology, and that will fuel the further development of the AI technology.
And Dr. Zhou Mi, so we see that DeepSeek and Unitree, they are headquartered in Hangzhou, East China's Zhejiang province. So why is this city of Hangzhou full of high-tech innovation capability? There are now the so-called 6 little dragon in Hangzhou. So people are now even talking about the Hangzhou model, right?
Yeah, it is really, in the recent days, a lot of cities in China are just trying to compare themselves with Hangzhou. And they are trying to figure out what are the advantages that Hangzhou has and they do not. So actually, I think that is a really interesting thing because if you're looking back in the last previous decades or centuries, Hangzhou is already one of the places that people are really taking care of the education. So the people have this tradition in the city to have more knowledge to discuss. Well, in the recent decades, we also see that Hangzhou is attracting investors from all around the world, and also like Alibaba settled there, and they have created a very large environment for them to start, like in the Xixi. So I visited there. I found that the people there really are like to be more innovative. Well, after China held the G20 Hangzhou Summit, I think that city has changed a lot because during that year of around 2016, I visited Hangzhou several times. I see that a lot of improvement are happening in this city, and they are trying to be more internationalized. I think they are going to welcome the people from all around the world to hold several different kind of international conference and also big events. And that created a very open atmosphere to welcome the communications and the interactions with out of China. So for all of this, I think that it is a really good thing because Hangzhou has already accumulated so many innovative companies there, and they are able to have a supply chain cooperation. So that is the advantages of Hangzhou. I believe that they are also creating more things to do with culture, to do with different kind of the service sectors, and that is really helpful for the people to have a better living there, and especially the talents, when they are in the high rank, they may take care and they will pay more attention on the environment they are living. So it's a really nice place for the people to live there and have a better work together.
So Yan, according to the Global Innovation Index by the World Intellectual Property Organization, China moved up one slot to 11th place in the ranking of the world's most innovative economies. So how do you view China's innovation capability, and what does the innovation mean for China's industrial transformation?
I think what this shows is that China is progressing by leaps and bounds when it comes to its innovation capability. So if you recall, as late as 2010, in the Harvard Business Review, there was still an article with the title, "Can China Innovate?" At that time, people always believed that China can only produce, and they are always the copycat when it comes to innovation. But that's no longer the case. As we see today in AI, for example, in 2022, China led the global AI patent origins, with 61% of the global AI patent originated from China, which is far outpaced the United States, which only account for about 21%. So I think that just showcased China's capability in innovation, and that has to do with a number of factors. One is the government has a strategic vision. For example, China's spending on R&D last year in 2024 was 3.6 trillion yuan, which is up by 8.3% from the year before. And this makes China the second largest economy when it comes to R&D spending. So that policy support, that strategic vision, is really helping China to develop its innovation capability. Not to mention, China also has very large talent pool. China graduates 3.57 STEM students every year. So this large talent pool really helped to fuel China's innovation. And last but not the least, as we mentioned earlier, China has so many innovative entrepreneurs, and they have very competitive environment. And China has a very large market where a lot of these innovations can be monetized and applied. So I think all of these really drive China's innovations forward. Now, when it comes to the applications of China's innovations, and we can see that China is able very quickly to apply some of these general purpose innovations to its many of its industries, right? From manufacturing to services. You can see AI, for example, DeepSeek has been really integrated in many of these industries, right? From EVs to WeChats to finance to education and so on and so forth. So I think all of these are going to really help to drive China's productivity growth and allow China to, graduate from the so-called middle income trap and to be able to achieve the high quality development driven by productivity and technological led growth.
Well, we're speaking with Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University, Chen Jiahe, Chief Investment Officer at Novel Market Technologies, and also Dr. Zhou Mi, Senior Research Fellow with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. And after a short break, we'll take a look at the latest developments in China's low-altitude economy. Stay with us.
As one of CGTN Radio's most popular programs, World Today provides listeners with a strong mix of international news and business. It delivers in-depth analysis of current affairs and one-on-one interviews, bringing you the stories behind the news, not just what's happening, but why.
You're listening to Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. South China's Hainan Province has recently announced a draft proposal to boost the low-altitude economy. China's low-altitude economy is flying high, fueled by supportive policies and cutting-edge technologies. The country's low-altitude market is estimated to jump from 500 billion yuan in 2023 to 3.5 trillion yuan in 2035. So, Yan, first of all, Hainan Province has now announced a draft proposal to boost the low-altitude economy. Could you tell us more details of that?
Well, I think this is really in the context of China's fast development in this low altitude economy. So this is basically, it covers a wide range of economies that basically have manned and unmanned civilian aircraft that have the main activities that are below 1,000 feet. So this is a huge market, as we know that its market value exceeded 500 billion yuan in 2023 and expected to reach 2 trillion yuan in 2030. So there's a lot of space, the potential to grow the industry. So the question is, how do we provide the necessary regulations and guidance for this industry to continue to develop? So from what I understand is that in 2024, there was the first interim regulations on the administration of unmanned aircraft flight management came into force. And so that Hainan's, the new regulation, I think it's a way to, again, to localize some of these needed aviation standards and laws, but also provide some of the guidance for where you can fly these drones and some of the sort of the safety and security kind of standards and measures. And so I think these are, again, to not only to regulate, but also to provide a guidance for this industry to grow.
And Jiahe, so you are now in Hainan. So how can the low altitude economy change people's lives and how will it benefit the local economy?
Well, if you look at low altitude economy, including drones, helicopters, all these kind of things, it's pretty new in China. I mean, it's really a new area where you are developing. So developing this economy needs a few things. First of all, you need a pretty advanced economy. So you can't do this in the inland economies where they don't really perhaps have that much demand. And the second is that you can't really start that from a metropolis with tens of millions of people living there. You might incur some kind of risk because if you fly all these things over the city, and you might worry that there might be some risk involved. So if you look at Hainan, this is a perfect place for you to start all these things. It's a pretty advanced economy. Got a what we call the global tourism island. It got a lot of people coming into Hainan out of it and spending quite a lot of money here. And Hainan is, we don't really have much large cities over here. We have pretty small cities and towns. So you need a lot of transportation. So I think all these are the reasons why this low altitude economy is conducting in Hainan right now. So this really creates an extra amount of GDP for the local economy.
So what do you think are the business opportunities in this sector? A lot of cities like Shenzhen, like Guangzhou, Hefei, they all have rolled out favorable policies to boost the development of the low altitude economy, right?
Right. So I think this industry can really benefit a lot of different, I would say, industries because these low altitude hardware can be applied in many different ways. So one of the things when you think about is with drone logistics, right? So you could think of the delivery industry could use drones to deliver their packages and whatnot in many different places, in remote areas where it's hard to be reached by cars or by trains. So this is one area that it could really help to boost the logistics and the warehousing and some other related services. It could also be used for tourism, for photography, for science and other technology research. It could also be used as a means of transportation. There has already been experiment, for example, to have the drone to carry passengers from one city, from Shenzhen to Hong Kong. The problem right now is quite costly for as a transportation vehicle. But again, as the industry develops, right, as the cost goes down, there's definitely potential to use it for intercity travel. And that would really help to also enrich business connections within, for example, the Greater Bay Area. So there are many possible applications of this low-altitude economy, and that would really help to provide the sort of spillover effect to other industries. So this Hainan's proposal to support the low-altitude economy includes 18 measures, and some of them are really trying to attract some of the financial investments. So I think for many investors, this is also a potential for them to capitalize on and profit from the opportunity of the investment in the low-altitude economy.
And this low-altitude economy is also a burgeoning sector globally. So, Yan, how has it been developed in other countries like US and Europe?
Well, I think as far as the technologies are concerned, the U.S. is developing and it's leading in some of these technologies in developing the drones and others. But China definitely has its own advantage, especially in the small and medium-sized drones. China is the leading manufacturers, and it's accounting for, I believe, over 70% of some of these hardware. Not to mention, I think, again, this is a place where you can see the strategic vision of developing these systematically, right, to develop this low-altitude economy. I mean, as far as the United States is concerned, I have not seen really sort of a strategy that's laid out to promote, right, holistically the development of the low-altitude economy. So you have the drone industries, you have companies that are making the so-called vertical landing and taking off and landing vehicles. But again, I have not seen the idea of linking up the different industries and developing it into a more encompassing kind of industry. And I think China is, again, taking the lead on this, not only thinking about, the production itself of the drones, but really how to incorporate it in many different sectors, like I mentioned earlier, right? Logistics, photography, tourism, science and research, and so on and so forth. So I think China is really making really significant progress on this.
Well, we're speaking with Yan Liang, Professor of Economics, Willamette University, Chen Jiahe, Chief Investment Officer at Novem Archi Technologies, and also Dr. Zhou Mi with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Biz Today. I'm Zhao Yang in Beijing. Thank you so much for listening.